We need to have a talk about Hornby model railways. It seems that the big H has had a lot of problems recently in terms of development and stock issues. Not to mention, whenever they seem to try and release a new model, something seems to go wrong with it. Coupled with when they recently had their 2025 range announcement video, the whole thing went live 12 hours early, which then turned out to be a bit of a disaster because the actual video itself had sound issues. Hornby doesn't seem to be able to catch a break. You couple this with HM7000 ongoing issues and compatibility problems as well, and things certainly don't look great for Hornby. With all that in mind, recent tragedies aside, I am still not ready to give up on Hornby. They matter quite possibly more than anyone else within this hobby, and here's why. Let's talk about our friends over at Hornby. Now, it's no secret that Hornby have had, shall we say, a turbulent past few years. There's been a few ups and downs with them regarding releasing of models and the quality of some of those models, as well as some questionable business practices regarding Thunderbolts and Lions and all that sort of thing. Most recently, they had their 2025 announcements, and well, the video didn't exactly go to plan, did it? Now, as far as launches go, it could have been better. Unfortunately, things got out of the gate kind of badly. I mean, they had the video was published a full 12 hours earlier than it was supposed to have been. That's never good. I've had that happen myself, actually. But I'm just some idiot with a camera. I'm not Hornby. And it's things like this, and as frustrating as they are for me and you, they are also frustrating for the big H. It's frustrating when we see that because the hobby, model railways, like it or not, it does rest heavily on the back of Hornby and their success. If you think about it, usually when someone goes out and gets their first toe dip into this great hobby of ours, it's usually, 9 times out of 10, a Hornby starter set that they go for. And it's usually part of the railroad range as well, so Freight Master or Night Freight or whatever the modern day iteration of that is. That's where people go to dip their toe, as it were. What happens if that disappears? You really think kids and mum and dad are going to go out and buy Junior a £1,000 Dynamic starter set? That's not going to happen. I mean, some parents will. Some people have got more money than sense. But no, that's not going to happen. That's not what happened for me when I was a lad. I got the old Hornby HST starter set and the oval of track, and there we are. And that is the same story for people the nation over. For not just kids, but some adults as well. If that suddenly disappeared, then where would the rest of the hobby be at? Now, we can talk for as long as you would like about Hornby and their accounts, which are published publicly, and you can see where they've made losses in gains and net losses, all the other boring number stuff, which I'm not going to bother talking about because, to be honest with you, it doesn't really reflect what's going on with me and you, the modeler. No, what we see is we see Hornby struggling. We see Hornby getting ready to jump over a hurdle and then catching their toe and face planting. This keeps happening, and I know recently I made a video about Hornby's Locomotion 1, and loads of people out there really loved theirs and had a great time with it, and that's superb. The one I got seemed to have several issues, which you can check out in the video I have on the channel if you want to go have a look at that, by all means. But I coined the phrase in that video a wonderful rush job, a beautiful rush job, because it is a spectacularly lovely looking little model, is Locomotion 1. However, in practice, it just falls down flat on its face. And what makes this doubly frustrating, and before getting into that, Hornby are capable of making a superb model locomotive, really are. And what makes it more frustrating is when we get something like Locomotion and it doesn't run properly, people immediately say, well, it's not meant for that. It's not meant to run around a layout and run around. It's just meant as a decoration piece or a little bit of a, what's the word I'm looking for? Not a traction piece, I can't remember the name. It's a little bit of a show piece, if you will. It's not meant to run in the same way that a Class 17 or a Class 47 or 37 would do. It's not a proper model train or model locomotive. It's just there as almost like a gag, if you will. Something for the collectors to have and for it to sit pretty on a shelf To be honest with you, that's what mine's doing now, and that's pretty much all it's good for at the minute. I will revisit that at some point, but for now, it's just a pretty little, what's the word I'm looking for? A pretty little low Mac load, if you will. So, this is why it's frustrating. When Hornby, arguably the biggest model railway company on the planet, certainly in the UK, released something like Locomotion, and it just hits the ground and smacks its face in the dirt. And it's let down by things like poor pickup design and poor electrical connection between the locomotive and the tender. That model has only got 4 pickups. Despite having 8 wheels, it's only got 4 pickups. The locomotive has 1 left and 1 right. The tender has 1 left and 1 right. Which means if any one of those 4 wheels loses connectivity, you're automatically down to 2 connections to the track power, and if that loses it, your locomotive's dead in the water, and there is not a lot of room for a stair live in there. Then if you're a DC modeler, you might as well forget it, because you ain't getting a DC stair live in there at all. And it's not like Hornby don't know how to make a really reliable, excellent small model. Their Rushton 48DS is a gorgeous little model. I've still yet to get one, but I will absolutely get one. It's a gorgeous little thing, little tiny, almost like a car on rails, if you will. And it's very well made, incredibly well detailed for the size of the damn thing. And yes, it runs even without the trailer on there. You have to make sure your track is fastidiously clean, but it will run because those 4 wheels have got proper pickups on them. So when you look at Locomotion and you see these springy coil pickups, it just makes you think, why, Hornby? You lads and lasses know what you're doing. Turbo Motive, great little model, absolutely fantastic. Your new 9F is a great model. Your Black 5 with smoke, fantastic bit of kit. Yes, okay, it's a bit more money, but people don't mind paying it when it works. I think a lot of people, including myself, were a little bit taken back by the cost of Locomotion and the end result we had, well, a lot of people had with it, me certainly. But I'm not ready to give up on Hornby yet. They do keep bringing forward great innovations. One of those innovations is the HM7000 Bluetooth decoder range we saw released some years ago now. Now again, that when it first came out hit the ground with a bit of a stumble, which is kind of becoming almost par for the course really with Hornby. A new product's released and there's almost like a stuck in the mud thing, but when it gets going, when it picks up speed and pace, it does work itself out. And for those of you folks out there that use HM7000 on Apple, you've no issue whatsoever. The app was working pretty much from day one with a few teething errors and a few little issues and niggles to get over, but it was working and it was reliable, and that's fantastic. From my standpoint, being an Android user, I had many difficulties and it wasn't apparent on my particular device, and I couldn't find any documentation anywhere telling me to do this. But in order for my phone to connect to my HM7000 locomotive or decoders, I had to have location services turned on, and that wasn't immediately obvious or apparent to me, and it caused a few hours of frustration trying to get things to work. Then of course you've got things like the Bluetooth connection cutting out, which I think is why there is the stay alive option for these decoders, because it keeps that Bluetooth connection active while the locomotive goes over dirt at the track and stops it from disconnecting. So that is, again, almost a necessity really. Get the power back in there for Bluetooth mode and it works. An absolute treat. It seems that with HM7000, a lot of the issues come down to the fact that Hornby just don't control Android. And for those that don't know, quick lesson, Android isn't just a platform. Android is an umbrella term for several platforms which all use a very basic substructure, bands and what have you, and then they all build their own infrastructure on top of that. And the end results can be vastly different. Certainly different enough for an app not to work as expected. And that's where Hornby are having their issues. Compatibility issues will slow down things like new sound profiles coming through. It'll slow down patches, it'll slow down updates, and it'll slow down, for lack of a better word, user enjoyment, and it will impact sales because people will just stop buying them because there's no new sound profiles coming out and it won't work on their Android phone, and then the frustration sets in. But I think I have a solution for Hornby. Now let's just brush over the fact that their tri-mode power thing didn't really work out to begin with, because of course people didn't use regulated power supplies and you ended up with a load of decoders just going pop. The idea was as you could run it on DCC with any sort of power supply going to the track and it would work. And it kind of does, but at the same time it doesn't. So people started getting smartphones and Android smartphones, trying to work with them and finding out it didn't work again because their version of Android wasn't yet supported or wasn't updated. Why don't Hornby just include an Android device in the legacy dongle starter set, or even on its own as a starter set? It wouldn't be expensive to implement. It certainly wouldn't be expensive for the end user to buy. Certainly no more than, for example, the NC power cab, it's right there in front of me. You can get a power cab for about 180 quid. And it's a fantastic system. I wouldn't use it if it wasn't. Some of my models are also HM7000 connected and powered. But I got to be honest with you, I don't use the HM7000 app because it's not an enjoyable experience for me. It's much more conducive to use a proper controller for me. But for those of you that do want to use a Bluetooth thing and you're getting your issues because you happen to be on Android, the way around that is simple, Hornby. Smartphones are not expensive these days. Here's what you do. You can have this for free. Small, basic Android smartphone tablet thing, something like this. It doesn't need to be an extravagant thing, and it doesn't even need to make and receive phone calls. It just needs to be a basic smartphone that will, tablet device or Bluetooth device, or you could even call it the Hornby pad. You are HM7000 Hornby pad or Hornby controller, or I don't know, blue pad. I don't know. Think you do your marketing thing, I'll do the design thing. Then we'll be good, right? And the reason why you want to pre-package it and have it come from you guys is because then you will have absolute control over what software is on it and how compatible that software is with your own products, i.e. HM7000 decoders. Now, yes, I fully understand that the idea behind it was that the end user could just use their existing mobile phone and buy a decoder, whack it in a locomotive, plug it in, and away you go. You've got DCC sound. Life doesn't always work out that way though. And through unforeseen difficulties and problems, Android users kind of left out in the dark. This, for me, will sort it out completely. You've got your own hardware, you know what's gone into it. You've got your own, for lack of a better word, firmware or software on the phone, and you can even preload it with loads of Hornby apps and goodness. You keep the camera so people can take photographs of their locomotives and use them as pictures, custom graphics for their locomotives they have in their HM7000 fleet. So you can see an actual picture of your model on your layout and it's done. You just click it, do it, and that. So keep the camera function on there. Yes, that's right. It's time for the sponsors advert. Yes, of course, it is Sawyer Models of Lee. Why go anywhere else when you can get everything you need right here? They have rolling stock, accessories, scenic items, tools, whatever it is you need to build a banging model railway, they can absolutely supply it. And I should know because I've been going to them for quite a while now and I've got everything I've needed from them. You can either buy from them from their website or you can go in store for superb customer service. Remember guys, visiting Sawyer Models really does help me out, so if you can, please do so and do your part to keep helping support small, local, independent model railway stores. We need them now more than ever. Keep the Bluetooth function, for obvious reasons. You don't need it to make and receive phone calls, and have it able to access the internet, so a basic web browsing function so people can go onto Hornby's website and buy things. But of course, you're going to want to block access to Bachmann's website, aren't you? And Akira Scale and Rapido, Deapite. You will have a reliable, affordable, modern solution for the newcomer and experienced modeler to use DCC and have the world of DCC sound and hands-free wireless model railway control at their fingertips. Smartphones are not expensive to buy. I had a look last night, you can buy them for 25 quid, brand new 25 quid. You pick which version of firmware it has and then just don't update it. Or just work with that version of Android. If you've only got to work with one version of Android and one version of Apple, that's a lot better than having to work with one version of Apple and hundreds of versions of Android. Yes, of course, you would still give support for Apple users so they can still use their iPhone, and a select number, a reduced number, if you will, of third-party Android users. So some Android users can still use their phones if they want to, but it will be recommended that you buy the proper Hornby pad. Buy the Hornby pad, and then you'll have no issues, because it comes preloaded with everything you need, and it's the right operating environment for your software and for your HM7000 decoders to work with and happy. And your lovely dev team can be happy because they know what's happening, when it's happening, and where it's happening. Easy as that. You're welcome. You're absolutely welcome. Now, if you are already a HM7000 user, let me know what you think. I want to know if it met your expectations, if you're a little bit disappointed with it, or if you're happy to keep going with it. Me personally, I like it. I can't see myself going out of the way to buy any more HM7000 decoders just yet, because there's no sound profiles on there which really interest me, and for that reason I'm just going to hang fire before buying any more of them and stick with things like ESU and Zemo. All in all, I think that Hornby needs to keep going, and we need to keep helping support them. I know when people see the announcements coming out and see things like more Beatles tap, let me just explain something to you. The Beatles tap is not for you. Okay, try to understand that, boys and girls. It's not for the quote-unquote proper railway modeler. The Beatles tap, or whatever other shit they decide to post on a 30-year-old Triumph tooling, isn't for you. That's for Joe Q public to look at when they're walking around Marks and Spencer's or Sports Direct or whatever high street shop, and they see a Hornby train set with Beatle wagons on it. My dad likes Beatles, I'll get him that for Father's Day, Christmas, birthday, whatever. And then he gets it. And that's the point. That's the clever bit. That's the clever bit. It's cross-pollination. Joe Q Public gets a little wagon, little tiny Hornby wagon. Now, he's never had any previous experience or interest with model railways in his life, but he likes Beatles and he knows Hornby. You connect those two big brands together into one little package, and all of a sudden you've got someone that starts thinking about a model railway. He thinks, well, it's lovely sat on the shelf, but wouldn't it be nice to get that yellow submarine tanker as well and have the whole thing driving around a little layout, just a little 6x4 in the bedroom. Yeah, I've got 6x4 space in the bedroom. Yeah, that'd be really nice. I'll look into it. And then before you know it, that bloke who got a Beatles Hard Day's Night wagon for his 47th birthday last year is online, and he's looking at buying more model railway stuff, and he's looking at buying more Hornby, as well as Dapol, Bachmann, Curascale, Vitrains, well, not Vitrains, they don't exist anymore, but maybe Vitrains, Cavalex, Revolution, whoever. They all get a piece of that pie, all because Hornby decided to stick a picture of Ringo Starr's mush on a brake van. It's a flaming brilliant idea. For those that don't understand it and just see the Hornby tap, I get it, it can be very what they're making that for, but again, you need to think about the mindset behind it. It's very clever what Hornby are doing, and it's things like this that keep the lights on at Hornby HQ and allow them to fund projects like the double or Deltic DP1, which is all die-cast and looks very pretty and is very expensive but very nice, and things like continued development and all the other models they've released recently, and apparently not Locomotion 1. I'm just joking. Hopefully you kind of get the point. Hornby absolutely matter. Arguably, Hornby matter the most, and without Hornby being out there in the high street and people seeing that brand name and seeing that brand name paired with another brand name like Beatles, for example, people just aren't going to cross-pollinate. Now, people that are always into model railways and have always been into trains and stuff, there's always a danger of them getting into model railways naturally anyway. But I'm talking about the folks out there that have absolutely no interest whatsoever until one day they get a yellow submarine TTA tanker for Christmas. And that's how it starts, boys and girls. Simple as that. Easy enough. Now, Doncaster show's coming up soon. I'm going to be there with Jenny and ECC Concepts and our sponsor, Sawyer Models. I'm also going to be mooching around, doing the circulation thing, speaking to you good lot. So if you're coming, please do come along, say hello, and we'll have a chat and a meet and all the rest of it. So I'll see you all next time, guys. Take care. Bye-bye.